The White House kicking into high gear to see the state through this latest hurricane disaster.
Joining us right now with more is U.S. Secretary of the Interior and retired Navy SEAL Commander Ryan Zinke. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure this was one of the big topics on the table at Camp David when the president convened his cabinet there over the weekend.
Well, that was a big topic, and leave no neighborhood behind. We have devastation starting with the territories. Virgin Islands got especially hit. And listening earlier about the power, this likely a rebuild. We're not sure that we can repair the power grid in the Virgin Islands. Of course, today we'll look at the assessment of the Keys as it goes up. Fortunately, looks like Tampa and the upper part of Florida was not hit as hard as we thought. But certainly the president's focus is leave no neighborhood behind. And let's not forget about the forest fires out west. Still a lot of communities that are under threat. Very few fires are contained to the point where we can keep our eye off the ball.
Yeah, we see that you're going to be rushing $221 million over to the U.S. Virgin Islands, because a lot of them, they were saying over the weekend, they feel kind of ignored, but that's going to change once you get them that money, as well as Puerto Rico. But I also noticed that you're in Shanksville, and you're in Shanksville on 9/11. And before you became congressman and secretary, you were in the military. I'm just curious, Mr. Secretary, where were you on 9/11, and what are your thoughts today, 16 years later?
Well, I was actually a SEAL instructor in 9/11, and I saw when the plane hit, like many Americans, that America's going to change, and we have changed. And you're right, today the Vice President is in Shanksville. We're visiting the Flight 93 National Monument, and I can tell you they're heroes. This is an example of America sticking together. You know, and likely the actions of the passengers and crew of Flight 93 prevented, probably a strike on the Capitol. We had a joint session in Congress at the time. But they're heroes, and this monument, if you have not seen it, drive out and take a look at it. It's magnificently designed, magnificently done, and it's an example of how public-private partnerships, community, the national park system, all working together to commemorate, I would think, American heroes.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Secretary, you and the Vice President will be there today. What can we expect? What are you going to be doing there?
Well, today is really a memorial for the 40 passengers. We're going to talk to the families. They were here. We were here yesterday, dedicating a chime, which 40 chimes. Design of it, shovel, groundbreaking for that portion of the monument. But really reflecting on how great this country is, the sacrifices we've made, and also talking about the change that 9/11 brought to all Americans.
Do you worry 100 years from now someone's going to try to take that memorial down like they're trying to remake our memorials today?
Well, I'm one that believes that we should learn from history, and I think our monuments are part of our country's history. We can learn from it. Since we don't put up statues of Jesus, everyone's going to fall morally short. And I think reflecting on our history, both good and bad, is a powerful statement and part of our DNA. So I'm an advocate of again, learning from our monuments, understanding the period they were made, but also we live in a great country, and monuments are not Republican, Democrat, Independent. The monuments are a tribute to all of us.
And the observances there in Shanksville start just a couple of hours from right now. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for joining us on this September the 11th, 16 years later.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for being there with those families.
Thank you very much.